use of this birda, because we're gonna get back to this birda today. Birda is this type of it's a mix of multiple ingredients that the Gemara said that you could use on Shabbat to go ahead and, let's say, wash your face with. The Gemara says birda shari, to wash your face. That's what Rashi says. Again, the thing was the Gemara said at the end yesterday we ran through it, so let's just clarify it a little bit. The rabbi said birda is shari. The Gemara said, what is birda? If Yosef went on record and said it's tilsa ahala, tilsa asa, tilsa sigli. It's a mixture that has a third of ohol. That's a certain type of herb. It has a third hadassim and a third, let's say, the violet flower. It has a very nice smell in it, and the Gemara says, Bar Yosef kol heicha deleka ruba ohala shapidami. As long as it does not have a majority of ohala, you're fine. Which seems to, in one way to learn him, is that the first rabbi said a third, a third, a third. That means if you would have more than a third and a third of ohala, but if you'd have more of a third of ohala, it would not be good. And this rabbi says that no, you got up to a half. You could have actually, as long as it's not 50% of ohala, then you are good. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Mark, and good morning, Nathan.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Boker Tov.
Boker Tov.
Because what's the issue? We're talking about a type of something to a person wants to wash their face with, and the face, you might have a beard, and the issue is maybe there's a concern, maybe this is going to remove hairs from your face. They're not allowed to do on Shabbat, and so the Nehemiah says as long as you don't have a half olah material, as long as you're less, because we're talking about a certain item that has multiple ingredients. So the Gemara says as long as you don't have 50% of the olam herb, you're good. Morning, Adam. Adam, I have to talk to you about the computer later. Okay, so that's. But if it has more than 50% of olam, then it's going to remove the hair. Now, Boimine, and the other opinion, only allow 33% of the olam ingredient, that they should be made of 33 and a third percent of the olam, because he's concerned if it has more than that amount, it might remove the hair.
Olam meaning the world? Like, what do you mean olam?
No, olam, it's the name of an herb. The name of and that olam herb,
so they put it in when they wash their beard.
Right, people wash their face, and including it when it's the type of thing they want to get a nice wash on their face, maybe gives the skin a nice color, nice shine. It cleans. So, but sometimes you have something that cleans, but also might remove hair, and that's the concern of the Gemara. You can't.
Hey, 1 mega, 1 power, please.
Say it again.
No, sorry.
Yes. So that's the issue, Mark, over here. That yes, using it to wash your face, but if it's doing something else at the same time, if it's removing hair, that's a problem.
They're not worried about squeezing the water out.
Right. So you have to say they're not worried about squeezing the hair. You're just gonna, tap it, pat it, as they say. Just like all the people, there are men that the Hasidim go to the mikveh, right? On Shabbat, they go. If the Hasidim that go every day, they go on Shabbat. So they have to be careful also to pat their, not to squeeze the hair. Boy minei mirav sheshet. They asked Rav Sheshet the following question: Mahu lifsoa. We are on 50B, 50B1. The answer of Sheish Mahu lifsoa zaitim b'Shabbat. Can you go ahead? And Rashi learns the Gemara's question is take an olives and bang it on the stones. And what's the purpose is because let's say the olives are too bitter, and you want to sweeten the olive. Can you go ahead and do that on Shabbat? Meaning, what's the issue? The issue is there's a opinion in the Gemara later on that if you have a food that's not really able to be eaten beforehand because of some issue with the food, and you go ahead and you make the food edible, you prepare the food to make it something edible, that's like, some say that's like a new creation. It's like a nolad. And some say that would be forbidden on Shabbat. And therefore the question is this act allowed to be done on Shabbat? So now the issue is here, you're not squeezing, you can't squeeze an olive. If you want to get the juice of the olive, you can't squeeze the juice of the olive. But if you go ahead and you're not doing it for the juice, that you want to use the juice, you go ahead and you want the juice is going to be, according to Rashi, the juice is going into the garbage, right? You're just squeezing the olive to, because one of the malachot on Shabbat is not allowed to, you can't squeeze an olive for the to make for the olive for the olive for the oil, but you say you can't squeeze grapes to make wine on Shabbat. But here the question is, can you go ahead and you're not going to be using the liquid? The liquid's going into the garbage. Can it be done on Shabbat? So the Gemara shoots back. Omalahu says v'chibachol miyatiru. Why are you talking about Shabbat? That type of question on Shabbat. Can I do that on Shabbat? You can't even do this. Rabbi Rav Sheshet responds that you can't even do that during the weekdays. Why? Because Sava holds we should have said ochlin. He holds it's a waste. You're taking the liquid that's inside the olive and you're wasting it. By the fact that the liquid is going into the garbage, that's bal tashchit, and you're not allowed to go ahead and waste food. And we find in Tanit that Rashi says, that Rashi talks about, if you go ahead and you take a food, something that's worthy to be eaten by a human being, and you go ahead and you use that to feed an animal, so Rashi says that looks like you are kicking again. You're not appreciating the goodness that Hashem gave to the world, that you go ahead and you're taking food that's edible for a human being, and you're using it for an animal. So here you're going ahead and you're wasting the food. Now Tosfos asked the question, but it's not that what kind of waste of food is this? I'm doing this for the purposes I want to improve the olive. I want to, because the olive is, according to Rashi, the case is I am taking an olive, I'm crushing the olive, I'm banging the olive in order to sweeten the olive. But Tosfos has an issue that it's the Tosfos issue is that should not be considered wasting. And Tosfos explains that the Gemara is talking about a similar discussion that we had earlier, because before we were talking about washing your face with certain things, and whether you can wash your face with certain things because maybe it's going to remove hair. And Tosfos says that we're talking about you want to go ahead and you want to use this to wash your hands and your feet. And the idea of the olive, when you go ahead and you um, the liquid from the olive would would be good to give a nice shine for your hands, for your feet, and maybe it cleans. It's a cleanser, and therefore the Gemara shoots back that if you go ahead and you use the olive juice in that fashion, that's called wasting, because you're taking a liquid, and you're not going to go ahead and use, once you take the olive juice and you use it to wash your hands and feet, you're not going to eat it anymore. So to take a food, something that's edible for food purposes, like an olive, and then downgrading the olive that's edible for food purposes, and now using a food to wash your hands as a cleanser for your hands, that's what would be considered wasting. So according to Tosfot, it's not called wasting food if you squeeze out some of the juice for the purpose of improvement of the food. Morning, Nathan, Boker Tov. That's not called wasting, because you did it for the purpose of the food. But Tosfos is learning that if you go ahead and you do an act of taking something that's worthy for food purpose, for human consumption, and you go ahead and you want to use food. Morning, welcome back, Mark. It's been a little while. We miss you. But if you go ahead and you take something that's for food consumption, and now you want to go ahead and use it for washing your hands, that's considered, even though technically you're not wasting it completely. It's not like you're throwing it into the garbage, which will be like the Torah gives the case, take a fruit tree and cut down a fruit tree. But here you are using a food in a lower fashion and ruining it from a food for your hands and feet, and that is not.
There's many foods that we do things with them other than eat them.
So
It could be either besamim or creams or ointments or vitamins. The vitamins you eat, but it's not nutrition. Or maybe it's nutrition. But there's things that we do with food products that are
right. So for instance, let's say children in school, sometimes they make a macaroni art decoration on the wall. So according to this Gemara, according to Tosaf's and this rabbi's opinion, it should be a problem. It's pointed, and we have to see in the halacha how the halacha.
If everything moves for our benefit, if we just determine that there's a different benefit other than food, we do it because we want it for a different purpose.
Yes. So according to this opinion, again, according to this opinion, if it's something that's a food and you're using it for non-food, it seems like there's a problem. Let's see if anybody makes any comment over here. You see, someone who explained Rashi, to address Rashi's, if you're improving the food by squeezing out some of the liquid. So what should be the problem? What's the waste? So he says.
So sifting and winnowing, this rabbi wouldn't allow either, and separating the wheat.
Maybe the food is not there. The food is not edible without it. Maybe the food is not edible without. You don't even have. It's not even a food. Maybe
with the olives, it doesn't come out.
So I'll tell you, the Machzor Shekel said something very interesting, which will address something what you're saying. You're asking Nathan. he says he asked the question on Rashi. We find you could go ahead and use actually food. He said talks about wine could be used as a detergent to clean clothing. So that seems to be and they used to go ahead and take wine and put it around the house to give a beautiful aroma for with the how do you like that, Adam? So you make a beautiful aroma with the wine. So therefore that's there. So you're showing you're taking it from a food. It was a food, and now it's no longer you're not using it for food purposes. How would Mark? You hear the question? How do we explain that? So he says there you're benefiting from the wine itself. If you go in and you take the wine and you put it as around the house, a wine spray to make a nice aroma. Since you're benefiting from the wine, that's not called. Rashi would not call that a waste.
Go back to your macaroni example.
Right. So therefore, according to that,
Eye pleasure, but nose pleasure.
right. So according to that, the macaroni would be fine. You can make according to this, we could allow the teachers in the schools for the first graders to make a macaroni project because you're benefiting from the macaroni itself. The only thing you have to be aware about the macaroni project if they keep it Pesach time, because if it's the glue, that's questionable because the glue is on part of the macaroni, it's not on all the macaroni. The front of the macaroni doesn't got the glue on it. You know what I'm saying, Nathan? So yeah, it's not all glued up. So you got to have to throw it out. Throw it out, Mark.
On the wall, it's still a problem.
Right, because Nathan said, "What do you mean, Rabbi? It's glued." But I'm saying the way they make it, it's only the front, only the back that's against the paper is glued on, but the front still seems to be most probably. That's what I would think. Now, so he wants to say this beautiful idea that.
So going back to the olives with the beard, the wash.
Right. So regarding, let's say with Rashi, let's focus.
Am I allowed to crush the olive to wash my beard?
All right, that's how one explanation of the Gemara, or one explanation is, can I crush the olives? I want to get the juice out.
Crush it all together.
I want to. Now, why can't you do that? What's the issue? So, again, the question is, what's the case of the Gemara? What is the question of the Gemara? So Rashi learns the question of the Gemara. I want to sweeten the olive. Can I go ahead and crush the olive to get rid of some of the juice in order to make it better? So one that's the question. And one rabbi shoots back, you can't even do that during the weekdays. It's not a Shabbat question. You can't do that during the weekdays. Why? Because you're wasting the olive juice, the oil. So
if I'm getting rid of what's bad to make what's left better, how is that a problem?
Say how is what?
How is that a problem? For taking out of the olive what's bitter.
I mean, talking about during the weekdays, Shabbat. What do you prefer? Weekday.
Can I take something bad out of the fruit to get what's good left?
Right. So that's really Tosos's question. That was Tosos's challenge on Rashi, and because of that, Tosos says that can't be the explanation of the Gemara. That can't be that the Gemara is concerned with that. That wouldn't be a. Squeezing the orange juice and throwing out the pulp. Again, what's the purpose? What are you talking about during the weekdays? So according to this rabbi, so you got the juice. You're using the juice because you're
throwing away the psola.
Right, you're throwing a psola. And here the juice you take according to Rashi, the juice is being thrown out. The actual juice is being thrown out. And if the actual
Mark's point is that the juice is the bitter and the fruit, the meat is the good.
But remember that. You're saying so. We're saying the olive itself. So something that is edible as is. So you're going to ask the question, what's with the olive?
As is, but Mark wants to sweeten.
Mark wants to sweeten. Meaning.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? So I'm going. So that's what Tosfos' problem. Tosfos' problem is what's wrong with that, right? So the way the Masa Shekel says, if because I'm taking something, I'm taking, let's say, um, you could say either you could say the juice would be edible by itself. Let's say if I want to squeeze it for the juice, that'll be fine, right?
Olive juice, which is really
Oil,
oil.
that's fine. But here, what I'm doing over here is I'm taking the oil here is going into the garbage. He's not using it. He's not using this. The way
What's left? Just the pit.
right. But I'm saying, to sweeten it, a certain amount of liquid. Welcome back, Morris. A certain amount of the liquid that leaves, that amount that you're going to squeeze out is going to the garbage.
Okay.
So Rashi would hold that's called wait. You're taking something which is a food, which has use as a food. Most probably maybe the oil itself has use as a food, and you're taking that food and it's going to the garbage. Why did they keep it? That's a good question. It seems like that's the way that when maybe it's a small amount. That's the way that people they wouldn't save that small amount, perhaps.
Or it was bitter.
And Rashi's going to hold that's called wasting. That's called wasting the liquid
Because he threw it out.
because he threw it out.
Because he didn't need it.
Because he threw it out. That's the seems right. If you would use that liquid
For anything.
for anything,
Just the hand,
right, because that's the proof. That's the proof. He says if you want to use it if you want to use wine for an aroma, you could do it. It's okay.
Use the oil to light a candle.
Right, because as long as you're using, as long as you're using it, as long as you're using the item, it's something which is a food, it's fine. Even if you use it for other purposes. That's what the Master Shekel says. But here, what's unique about this situation, this wine is going to the garbage. So you're taking something which is really a food, and you are now it's going to go into waste. Therefore, Rashi would hold that is that would be a problem. And obviously, Tosfos holds that's not a problem. That most probably Tosfos holds that's not a problem because even if the wine goes to the garbage, or the oil here we're talking about the oil going to the garbage, but the fact that you have a greater purpose for it, that's not called wasting.
The remainder is upgraded.
Right. Then that's good enough. So that's not called a loss, according to, at least according to how Tosfos understands. So that seems to be the argument between Tosfos and Rashi, like Mark was saying. If the remainder becomes upgraded, but to get the remainder better, you took something which is food potential, or it could be used as a food, the wine itself, and now you're not benefiting from the wine itself, because the wine is going to the garbage, that would be a problem according to that opinion. So then the Gemara challenges, says, Lema pligid Shmuel. Right? Let's say that this is arguing on Shmuel. Because what was this meaning? Do we say that Rav Sheshet, who has a problem with squeezing out the liquid, he has a problem of that, he's arguing on Shmuel because what does Shmuel say? The Amar Shmuel also Adam called Sarchom. A person you could do whatever you want to use your bread. Good morning, David. If you want to use your bread, you have a nice flat bread, and you want to use it as to carry, put something on it, and use it as a tray to carry something on it, or you want to go ahead and take the bread and grind the bread and put it into a food, and it's not going to be eaten as bread. You could do that with the bread. So let's say it again.
Understand the problem.
So what's the problem with the?
Do it all the time. Not all food. The entire part of it is for consumption. You could carve out something and say, the bottom of the bottle of the wine. Why do they put a dip in the bottle of wine? It's to take out, you don't pour at all. You hold the last piece. Not that it's not so good. So over here, some of this olive is not so good. So why can't I extract that and not use the not so good part? I'm not eating it. Okay, good. You're not eating it because it's not so good.
So if we're saying that the oil, warning ourselves, if we're saying that the oil really is
It
has is a food,
less sweet.
right,
Take
right.
it out, the olive sweeter.
Right, we're talking about David about could you during the weekdays even, if you have an olive, could you squeeze the juice of the olive out into the garbage can, not into your refrigerator, put it in your refrigerator to fill olive oil. Could you squeeze it into the garbage to improve the olive? So Mark is saying, what's the problem? You're improving the olive. It's not wasting. So you want to talk a little louder, Nathan? Whatever with you.
If Hashem is teaching us never to waste anything, and if we left a paperclip somewhere, we should go and keep the paperclip. And Yosef went back to collect the pocket.
Got him.
So maybe the example is, even if it's of a lesser quality and it's bitter and you don't want it, but it has somewhere some redeeming use, save it for the redeeming use.
No, it's saying food. Has to be food. Let's say, don't use it to rub all of the rub.
Right. You could use you could use wine as a detergent. We said if you need.
The liquid squeezed out of the olive to go to waste. According to the generic explanation cited the previous note, Rev Sheshesh, whatever the name is, meant that using olives in the form of soap
Right.
that's considered wasting food. You can't use it to rub the hands.
Right.
It has to be.
Meaning Mark is saying the other explanation. Remember, I was talking about Rashi. Right. How would you explain that? Right. Right. That would be a good question on the Tosfos' pshat. Tosfos is the Gaonic that you just quoted. That Tosfos says that this rabbi holds that you would not be able, that the question of the Gemara is, can I go ahead, crush an olive, and I'm going to use this as a soap to wash my hands and to wash my face. Is that called taking a food? I mean, there's no issue of the bitterness of the olive. Olive is beautiful. It's able to be eaten as is. That's not the issue of the Gemara. It's not because you want to sweeten the olive.
Right.
You want to take a food and you want to go ahead and use it as a soap. And that is the question. And to that the Gemara is saying that you can't, this one rabbi holds that you can't do that. Why? Because if you use it as soap, no longer David could use it as a food. Because once you got your hands on it and you wash your face with it, it got dirty. You're not using it as a food anymore. And therefore that's called, this rabbi holds, that's called wasting food. And according to
his wife likes Shabbat.
I mean, has to use the oil, right? Because
They eat food. Things you get for flame, for fire, for Shabbat games. Not using it as food anymore. How does he hold? You could use it for Shabbat games. I can't even grab my hand.
Unless you say that maybe this olive that are standing, this olive, since it was standing for food purposes, it wasn't, maybe there are olives that people are standing. So you're asking questions. How according to Tosfot, according to this rabbi, that's the problem. How could you go ahead and use it for, unless you say that, perhaps to answer your question, Mark, is the following. If you take something that you don't need, so to speak, the olive, if you want to go ahead and wash your hands, and there's many other things that you could use to wash your hands and your face with. You don't need an olive to use to wash your hands and the face. However, when it comes to burning oil, you need oil. That is the item that's there for that purpose. But to go ahead and take something, if you could go ahead and wash your hands with water, and you have water, but instead I want to go ahead and wash my hands with orange juice, right? So I would say that's called, I want to wash my hands with wine. I would say that's called wasting. I mean, if you could make a case that's called wasting food. You don't need, it's a similar case that he talked about. If you have human food, something that's for a human, and you go ahead and there is a criticism of taking something that's edible for a human being and using it for an animal to give it to your dog. So that could be, to answer Mark's question. I need, that's the fuel, that's the normal fuel that's needed to burn. I can't, it's not, that's the normal thing. It's not the normal thing to take olive. That's not what's needed to go ahead and wash your hands and your feet. So maybe that could answer your question about why are we ever allowed to use olive oil if it's to burn. So the Gemara challenged him with the bread. If the rabbi says you could do what you want, you could, whatever all your needs, but you could, bread is able to be used for all your needs. It should apply, and that's bread. And bread is the highest level of food that it could be. Meaning, bread is the most. Ashkenazim will not throw, and even the Sephardim, that they throw bread Friday night to each other by the meal. I would say that their allowance is only Friday night during the meal, for the meal. They will not say you could go and throw bread on a regular day. If I want to have a catch with you right now, David, and I have a nice challah roll, and let's say we're dealing with a place that if it falls on the floor, it won't get ruined. It's like it's a floor that's whatever, or you're a guy that you'll never, you'll never drop something, and I will always throw you a good throw. And there'll never be a problem that it's going to fall on the floor. I still can't play catch with bread. I can play catch with an orange, that if I know that if the orange drops, it's not going to get ruined. And I'm the type of guy that I'll eat an orange that fell on the floor because it has the peel on it, and then I'll peel it off and I'll eat it. So I can technically have a catch with an orange. Not underhand catch, maybe not a, if you throw it fast and maybe it's going to ruin the orange. But if you have a little toss. It should not be a problem to have a toss with an orange, because even if it falls on the floor, it will not get ruined. But you can't toss any food that if it's going to fall, it's going to get ruined. However, bread is different. Bread, even if it's not going to get ruined, you can't play. You have to have a certain respect for bread. But yet, he says you could use bread for whatever you need. So if you use bread, certainly you could go ahead and right. So that's what I would think. Let's look up a shulchan. But again, also only to use it as a tray is only if it's a type of food that will not spill on it and ruin the bread. You know what I'm saying? If you're taking soup and using the bread and putting the soup as the tray for soup, and then if the soup falls on the bread, it's going to ruin the bread. Then you would not be able to use. You're not supposed to pour things over bread if it will go on the bread, it will ruin the bread. There's also certain type of things. What? Unless you're happy that the liquid goes on it, then it won't ruin it. We should take out the Shulchan Aruch to see your question, Nathan. So the Gemara is going to answer that Amri Patlo Meisa Hanim Isi. The bread remains. You could use the bread as a tray, but it's not ruined. Or you grind the bread into a little crumbs, and then you're using the crumbs for food. You're not ruining the bread. However, if you go ahead, both according to Rashi, where the oil goes into the garbage when you squeeze it, or according to Tosfos, the Gaonic that Mark quoted, when you're using it to wash your hands, the oil now becomes ruined. You can't eat it after you use it for your hand. So therefore, that we're not going to allow.
But the remainder of that you sweeten.
I'm eating that. But the oil, take the oil, perfect oil, and now you're taking the oil, edible oil, and the olive. Okay, but Rashi says that even though you improve the olive, but it came at a cost. It came at a cost of edible food. An improvement of an olive.
Bitter.
No,
So that means-
maybe if you would have saved the juice, it wouldn't be a problem. But the way that people would do it is not, you wouldn't save
Because
the,
if you squeezed it and improved the olive, great. Now
It-
use the soap, now use the oil
should be no problem.
for
You,
something else,
that-
not
that-
throw it out.
right, that
So
should be,
But if I use it for soap.
you're using it. You're using it for soap. You use it according to Rashi. Not
But
again,
then-
not the Gonik shot, not, but Rashi is saying which
The
you
only
could,
saying that using it for soap is no good because it should be food.
right. The Gonik is saying you shouldn't be able to use it for soap. And Rashi would say, maybe he would allow you to use it for soap, but you're not wasting the product.
Then you're allowed to use.
I mean, according to the Gonik. Like, okay, well, the olive, right? If it's too bitter to be eaten, now what do you want to do? And you want to
Make it better.
make it, and what's going to be with the juice?
So can you use the juice for soap? Because the juice is way too bitter. If the olive itself is bitter, when you make the meat of the olive sweeter, you've made the juice of the olive double bitter. The concentration of bitter is double. of the
Right.
oil. Would the government opinion allow you to use it for soap? Because you can't.
I mean, you couldn't eat the olive as it, you couldn't eat the olive as is, right? And
110G.
what would he hold about? What would he hold about? Now you want to use it for soap. The question is why can't you use it for, and you can't use it for what, but you can use it for food, the liquid?
Bitter.
Too bitter.
So my real question would go.
So therefore, what, you're not wasting food because it's never really, because if it's too bitter, if it adds, right, so I'm saying it's not wasting food. I mean, the issue is you're wasting, but you're not wasting anything.
You're
wasting food.
if you use it for
Soap, right, I mean, it had some
So
food
my
use.
question on the Gaonic problem is go even further, is say if I take that bitter oil, well, I could use it for soap, I could use it for a candle, I could use it for anything. So I can't use it for soap, because I'm wasting food, but I could use it for a candle. And then I'm not wasting food.
Because we said that I addressed that because the candle may be, that's the norm, but that's what I need this for candles. I can't do the candles without this.
Trying to moisturize themselves.
But okay, so
It's not an uncommon use to take oil and moisturize yourself. It's not uncommon. It's very common, wouldn't you say?
right. So you're saying on the Gaonic, you're showing that it should not be a problem. That's not called wasting.
Yeah, because it's not like I didn't use it. I could use it to even polish the table. It's so many things you use it for. It's not food.
And even though it was a food, even though it's a food.
It started as a food.
Right. Okay, so that what you're saying is really supporting Rashi's opinion. Because what is the Gaonic going to say about using wine to if you want to make a nice aroma in the house? You can use wine. According to the Gaonic, how could you use the wine? You're wasting the food. It's not, you're making it not a food anymore. Morning, Booker too. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. It's a very interesting subject we got into today, everybody. Something to think about. Have a great day. David, take a great day. Thank you for joining. Saf, have a great day.
Everything's okay with the.
Yeah, but a couple of times today and another day that you put on the